Sabaha everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to compare the brand new Galaxy S line of devices, specifically the S10e versus the standard S10 versus the S10 Plus. Now we're also going to compare the carrier version compared to the basically unlocked version that you can get directly from Samsung. We're going to basically try to break it down for you guys just to make it simple. If you're considering to upgrade to the Galaxy S line of devices, this should be pretty much the video you want to watch just to get all the information you know to make the best decision as far as which one is the right one for you. This is TK, and I want to say thank you very much for Verizon for providing me the standard S10 to be able to complete the list here so that I can actually make this video for you guys. But let's not waste any time. Let's check it out. Like and subscribe and hit that bell icon to make sure that you receive all the updates and new notifications of brand new videos whenever we post them. As I mentioned to you guys at the beginning, we're looking at three different devices. We have the unlocked Galaxy S10 Plus that's going to be in white, prism white, and we're looking at the Verizon variant of the S10 that's going to be in black, and then we're looking at the T-Mobile version of the S10e. If you notice, all three of them will say S10 and because they have a lot of similarities between each other. One of which is if you're buying it in the US market, you're picking up the Snapdragon 855 version of this device. If you're picking up any of these devices outside of it, even if it's unlocked directly from Samsung, they'll be sending you the Exynos 9820. That's their in-house chipset. So just keep in mind, in the US market and I think in Hong Kong, you'll pick up any of these devices with a Snapdragon version, and if you're picking up anywhere else, it's going to be Exynos. Not that it's a problem, I'm just mentioning to you guys so that you know when some people refer to certain types of devices, US is as Snapdragon always. The other reason I'm showing you guys there's the three different versions is we're going to also look at some of the differences between, how updates get pushed out, how different features get pushed out to the unlocked version compared to the carrier version, as updates tend to have a different cycle depending on who you have. So here we have all three devices, and the first thing that obviously will stand out to you is that there's a difference in size. So yes, the S10 Plus will be the biggest version of all three devices. It supports a 6.4-inch display, this one supports a 6.1-inch display, and then this one supports a 5.8-inch display. But as far as comparison to what we had last year and the years before, the S10 is pretty much the size that you'd compare to the last one, like the S9 or the S8, and the S10 Plus will be the the S9 Plus or the S8 Plus. The S10e is a new form factor. It's a smaller physical display and as well as a smaller form factor, and of course you could definitely see that it's missing one of the three sensors that we have on the back, as well as the heart rate monitor that we have on the side here. So what we have on the S10 and the S10 Plus is three sensors. We have a standard 12 megapixel sensor, a telephoto 12 megapixel sensor, and a 16 megapixel ultra wide lens, and that's why you see a triple camera setup in the back. Dual tone LED flash and heart rate monitor sitting on the right side there. On the S10 it's pretty much the exact same camera system, the exact same specifications. There's no big difference there. When we go over on the S10e, we're getting a slightly different experience. They dropped the telephoto lens, but they did keep the wide angle lens. So we have a 12 and a 16, one of them being standard focal length and the other one, of course, having the wide angle lens. We have basically just the dual tone LED flash and what I would assume essentially is the laser autofocusing system there. All three supports wireless charging as well as reverse wireless charging. So what that means essentially is you're able to charge them using any standard Qi charger, but you're also able to use each one of these devices to charge things otherwise outside of it. Let's say the Galaxy Buds that you were able to pick up if you do the pre-orders on these, although I'm not sure if that promotion is still going. But you're also able to charge other devices, let's say a friend's device that's compatible with Qi charging. As far as aesthetics on the back, all three devices have somewhat of a curvature on the side. You can definitely see it here. It's not as pronounced on the S10e. On the S10 and the S10 Plus, definitely you have that symmetry going between the front and the back. On the S10e, surprisingly, you actually have it a little bit curvature on the side here in the back, but in the front, it's a flat display. You can pretty much see right there that there is no curvature going on. Not to say that that's a problem. There are actually some people out there that prefer that. On top of the fact that it is definitely a one-handed device with the fingerprint sensor sitting on the side, and we'll get into that in a second. But as far as the back, that's pretty much the main difference here. You can actually go with what you had last year. If we compare this, let's say, to the S9 Plus, if we compare just mostly as size-wise, this is closer. So here, what we have here is the S10 Plus, here's the S9 Plus. You can see that they kind of kept the same ergonomics and of course the same shape. Actually, I was sizing them up when I first picked up the S10 Plus, and for the most part, they do feel, or at least take up about the same amount of space, although a much bigger display. And here is the S10. So looking at last year's black and versus this year, you notice there's a slight difference. It's a little bit grayish, but definitely you could see that this is definitely what we had last year as far as the standard S10. And then when it comes down to the S10e comparing to the S9 Plus, you could see the much bigger difference there. Of course, the different technology here, as this is also holding a different type of display than what we have with the other two guys. And as far as actual aesthetics, let's go ahead and pick up all three devices and start looking at actually placement of hardware as well as what options do we have. So on the left side of the device, or on the right side of the device, and just to let you know as well, the color that we have on the back kind of permeates into the actual metal bars. So you notice the black one ever so slightly has that kind of a grayish metal side, as well as the white one here is more closely to being silver. And if you go to the blue one, there's an ever so slight blue tint to it, and you can definitely see it there. The power button on both the 10 and the 10 Plus are pretty much standard power buttons. You turn on and turn off your display. You're able to basically just double press them to turn on the camera. That's about the only thing you could do on it. What we have here on the S10e is a little bit something extra. So we have the ability of turning on the power button. You can unlock the device. Double pressing it still takes us into the camera, but we also have, let's go ahead and go back into the home, the ability of opening up our notification shade using it. So not only do we have that functionality of turning on and turning off our display, we also have the ability of having gestures built into this to open up and close the notification shade. So very nice and very cool. We have one of the antenna bands sitting at the top. All three of them have the power button sitting slightly higher than what we had last year. So here's a comparison of what we had last year with the S9 Plus. You notice that out of three, even though this is the biggest comparing to the S9 Plus or S10 Plus, this actually has a lower power button than even the S10e. And from what I understand, at least from the teardown that we saw, is essentially it's to make placement for this bigger batteries. Both of these devices, or all three of these devices, except, well, the E, since this is the first one, are carrying slightly bigger batteries. So we have a 3400 milliamp battery with the S10, a 4100 milliamp battery with the S10 Plus, and we have a 3100 milliamp battery with the S10. It's about 1000 milliamp difference between the base model all the way up to the S9 Plus or S10 Plus. The difference in price, I forgot to mention at the beginning, the S9 Plus starts at $750, the S10 starts at $899, and the S10 Plus starts at $999. Big jump in difference, about a $250 difference between where you start here and where you start here. I'm talking about entry level for each one of these devices. But other than that, nothing else on this side. Now looking over on the left side of the device, all three have a Bixby button that's capable of being remapped. The S10e definitely has a slightly smaller button, as well as the volume rocker that's sitting right above that. So just keep in mind, you are looking at a device that has basically very much similar experience that we've had before. Bixby button and volume rocker on the left, and the other antenna band that we have there. Switching over to the top, we have a microphone obviously for the camera, we have one of the antenna bands, and of course we have the SD SIM card slot. In the US on the Snapdragon variant, you only get one SIM card and one SD card. If you're outside of the US in Europe, there are variants where they do support two SIM cards. So just keep in mind, depending on the market that you're in, you may get a different experience. Now on the bottom, pretty much the same experience. You're not really getting much of a difference here. You have a USB-C connected here for data and charge, as well as audio if you have USB-C audio headphones. A 3.5mm headphone jack supported with a really nice stack built in, as well as two of the antenna bands, the bottom firing speaker, and one of the microphones. And all three devices will support stereo speakers. What I mean by that essentially is the ability of using the bottom firing speaker and the top earpiece to generate stereo sound. So the mids and highs will play on the top piece, and the lows will be on the bottom, giving you that stereo sound. And they are actually quite a bit louder than what we've had in the past. I've tested out all three of them, and for the most part, the S10 Plus sounds the loudest, but for the, they're all in the same range. They're all very loud, and they'll be very clear with Dolby Atmos built into each one of them. Now, as you can see, all three of them support always on display. Sorry about the time difference here. This one's not connected to a network. But the main difference, of course, is that they all lost the notification LED, which means we do need to rely heavily on either edge lighting that goes around or the always on display to be able to get our notification. What I understand is we will receive an update that will provide us the ability of using a ring around the camera module that we have on the front here to be able to give us somewhat of a, basically a makeshift version of a notification LED that should be able to basically come in an update in the future. So starting off with the displays, as I said at the beginning, this is a 5.8-inch display compared to a 6.1-inch display compared to a 6.4-inch display. Both the S10 and the S10 Plus have Quad HD displays, which means their resolution is much higher, and the display can actually be adjusted from Quad HD to 1080p to 720p as far as resolution within the settings. The S10e starts off and basically is stuck to 1080p. It is a full HD 1080p, so it's not that it's a bad panel. What I mentioned for you guys here essentially is that it's a good panel, good colors, a good representation. It's a flat panel, so you don't have to worry about curved edges and false touches on the side. But basically you're getting here essentially is the most that you can get is 1080p. You cannot change that. Within the display resolution, you'll notice I have the ability of going from 3040 to 1440, that's the WQHD plus the resolution that we have, the Full HD plus, which is 2220 by 1080, all down to the 1520 by 720 to be able to save battery on my resolutions here. So depending on what you're using, you can actually save battery by, saving the display resolution. Higher resolutions will tend to eat up more battery. But there's not a big difference here. Out of the box, both the S10 and the S10 Plus come out with Full HD Plus, and you do need to actually go into that setting to change that, as it's unfortunately one of the settings that Samsung decides to keep at Full HD Plus. I'm not sure why we do that, but again, All three are very nice. All three support, by the way, for 60 frames per second Fortnite gameplay, so there's no issues there. But as I mentioned to you guys at the beginning, the difference now we're looking at essentially is the fingerprint sensor, right? We saw that a second ago. The power button here is the fingerprint sensor on the S10e, but what I have here on the S10 and the S10 Plus is the built-in 3D ultrasonic fingerprint sensor. So I'll lock it one more time, unlock it, put our finger, unlock, and bring it in. It works really nice, and it is one of the newer technologies on the market. So if you're looking for that, only the 10 and the 10 Plus will carry that. The S10e does not. I think having the S10 with the gestures directly built into it, I think it's definitely very functional. And then of course, having gestures built into it will enable us to just have more functionality, making this a very good one-handed device. So as far as one-handability, I would say the S10e is definitely one-handed. The S10 is manageable if you turn on gestures and you use the bottom gestures and everything. We don't have gestures as far as the fingerprint. Since it's in the display, there's not much we could do. But you can enable gestures directly within the UI to be able to basically, well, let's go and unlock. You can actually swipe down, swipe up. And again, right now it's configured to be this way, but you have the ability of swiping down to enable to open the notification panel. And you probably saw here that we have another video that just went out, and then I'll get a chance to check that out. But overall, we have the ability of using navigation buttons as far as showing them like this, or if we go directly in here and see where it says navigation bar, I can click that and it takes it away, and we have basically navigation gestures. Now, of course, here it's telling me I have this guy, but I can swipe from this end. These are my recents app. I didn't have anything open, so let's say close one, go in, and you can see right there, recents app, swipe away, it looks great. But if you don't want to, you can keep them just by clicking that button again, and they come back and they work the same way. There's nothing wrong. So that pretty much keeps us into one-handed mode. But when we transfer over to the S10 Plus, nothing's wrong with the fact that it's a bigger display, but the fact of the matter is the power button is slightly higher. We need to adjust for that if you're used to the older version. If you're coming new to the device, that's not an issue. I'm not complaining about the placement, but it's more of the adjustment. The fact that we have two sensors on the top as opposed to what we have here, I'll explain to you guys in a second. The other thing as far as two-handability is the fact that you can't reach the top part of it. You do need gestures. And what I do recommend you guys is installing and having something similar like this. This is called One-Handed Operation Plus, and it is part of GoodLock. So I'll go and close everything. You can download GoodLock, or you can go directly into the Google Play Store and then look for One-Handed Operations Plus. Install it on your Galaxy device and activate it, and this will help you just have a much better experience using everything and making everything just definitely much nicer as far as one-handability. All three devices have a punch hole style camera sitting on the top right. The camera sensors for the most part are the exact same one. We have a 10 megapixel front facing sensor that's capable of providing us a 4K video at 30 frames per second. On the S10 Plus, we have a secondary sensor, an 8 megapixel depth sensor. So essentially what we used to have in the past with these two devices, where they used to use them to be able to give us better bokeh effect, we're having that now on the front-facing camera. So when we turn on the actual camera sensor, we'll go ahead and turn it on. And you gotta keep in mind that NFC, they're next to each other. We'll switch over to the front-facing camera, and I'm gonna go ahead and just hide the ever so slightly that. You'll notice right there, nothing happens. The second sensor is, again, mostly used just for depth information. And the UI will go around it. So all your notifications pop up on the left side, and then of course just the battery percentage and Wi-Fi signals sit on there. So depending on how much you have here, like I have them on these end, you can go very simple, a little bit more, and even more. All three devices support customizations as far as the buttons. As you can see, I am running a theme on all three of them. That's how we're getting the entire dark option. If you don't want to run it, you do have the ability of turning on night mode, and unfortunately when you have a theme, it does not work. But one of the other things I wanted to share with you guys is not all the toggles that we have here between the devices are exactly the same. Now, all three support Dolby Atmos, so you need to turn that on. By default, it's not on. You can scroll down here and you can see it. And one of the other things that not all three devices have is Kids Home. The T-Mobile version has it built in directly within the UI, as well as the unlocked version. The Verizon one, you just have to go in directly into the Galaxy Store, download the Kids Home application, and for the most part, you're going to be receiving the exact same experience. So let's go ahead and scroll over, and we're logged in. Customizations and everything for the most part is exactly the same, although there is going to be slightly different variations, and I'll explain to you guys by the time we go into biometrics and security. And the reason I wanted to share this with you guys is the unlocked version does not have the blockchain key store. So that's something that Samsung announced at the launch event, and that is not only present on the Galaxy S10e on T-Mobile. I'm assuming T-Mobile is allowing this as an application directly within the UI. Verizon does not carry that, as well as the unlocked one does not carry that. I am not sure if we're able to download this as a separate application, or it will probably come in as a separate update later on, but currently in the version that we have here, we are not seeing that. Updates as far as the UI and what we get over time. Generally, carrier devices will receive the updates within a week or so after the actual unlocked device usually receives it. So just keep in mind, if you're looking for faster update from Samsung, the unlocked versions will receive the updates directly from Samsung. These will receive them directly from their carriers. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is all three devices now should have the Instagram mode. And that's an update that was pushed out after the initial launch of the device. And that's something that you can actually use to directly post into Instagram. Now, as far as the camera and the experience and the modes and all of that stuff, all of the modes on all of these devices will be pretty much the exact same experience. You're getting 4K 30 in the front. As far as video recording, all three of these devices will take amazing pictures, and the wide angle lens on the S10e is definitely the winner in my opinion. So this is a standard image that you take with your normal 12 megapixel sensor in the back, and if I switch over to ultra wide, you can definitely see I fit in so much more. I get the entire ledge on this side and a lot more on that end. Very, very nice. There is no cap as far as the 4K recording period, so just keep in mind that if you're recording 4K, it's just going to keep going as long as you have storage available on your device. And should be no issue with any of these devices. All three of them support basically 128 gig storage as well as expandable storage at the top. The last thing I want to talk to you guys about is basically the configuration that we get here are different. So as far as the size and comparison, just keep in mind that's for the most part consistent across all three. So the S10e has two different variants. There's the 6 gig variant, which is the standard model, which is what I have here, and then there's an 8 gigabyte variant that you can get a slightly higher, not bigger storage, but just more RAM to be able to just, if you'd like to have more RAM on your device. As far as storage, 128 with expandable storage, and of course 5.8 inch display, 1080p Full HD, and all the other features that I mentioned to you guys. Snapdragon 855 standard on all of them. The same Samsung UI 1.1. All the experiences and updates will be pushed directly from T-Mobile or whatever carrier you get, or depending if you get them unlocked directly from Samsung. As far as the S10, for the most part, configuration-wise, there's only one. There's only the 8 gig 128 model, and that's pretty much what you can get. So if you're going for one model that you'd like to either save a little bit of money, you can start at the $750 6 gig 128, or you can start here directly with the 8 gig 128 on the S10, and that's $899. There's no other variant of this. When you go over to the S10 Plus, that's when it gets a little bit very customizable, because this guy has actually quite a few versions as well as different materials. So the starting model is glass on glass, and this is the 8 gig model with the 128. That's the base model at $999. And all the way up to 12 gigabytes of RAM with 1 terabyte of storage. Once you get into those two realms, you're also getting into a different material on the back. As opposed to glass, we're moving into ceramic. So the weight on the device will definitely change, and these are the additional things you want to keep in mind. You'll definitely get the premium version at around $1,500, but that's really the higher end. So the best that we can get from an S10 line of devices is $1,500 with the ceramic, 12 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte of storage, and the most basic version of it will be the 6 gig 128, depending on whatever color you decide to pick up from your carrier, S10e, which I really think is the big winner in this devices, because overall, from the price point, you're still getting exactly the same experience across all three, maybe not the same resolution on the displays or the size of them, but you're getting a really good experience on a brand new top-of-the-line flagship of 2019. If you're deciding to go over to a Galaxy S line device, you're not going to be disappointed. The main thing you want to keep in mind is just basically what you like and if you're comfortable using your device in two hands. The S10e I think is a great entry point at $750, even at the 6 gig model. We're getting a really good experience, and we're getting almost all of the features that we want to get out of all the other devices. Now, we don't get the built-in in-display fingerprint sensor, the ultrasonic one, but we have a fingerprint sensor that A, is faster, B, more reliable. You're not going to have any issues with kind of slipping or anything like that. And it also has built-in gestures, so I think that makes this very unique. And again, $750, you can't really mess with it. It's not cheap, but it definitely is worth the price that it's asking for, mostly because of all the new things that we get in there. Wireless charging, reverse wireless charging, the 3.5mm headphone jack, we have the 60 frames per second gaming mode, all the other stuff that I didn't get a chance to explain because those are pretty much similar experiences. And I'll have a playlist listed for you guys in the description as well as a card just to show you all the other videos that I've done showcasing some of the main powerhouses of these devices. So by no means this is all inclusive, but if you want to focus on more specific things, I have videos covering almost every part of these devices. The S10 I think is a good device, but I feel like a lot of people will probably end up skipping it. Because it's so close to the S10 Plus, for a little bit more, like 100 more, you're not only getting customizations, you're getting a bigger display, you're getting a much bigger battery, from 3400 to 4100. That's a big difference than just going from the S10e, which is a 3100 to 3400 on the S10. You notice the difference there, it's $150, but you're getting only a little bit more battery and a little bit more display. So I really feel like the S10e and the S10 Plus are going to be the main players. And if you're considering going to the S10, I'd recommend you going directly to the S10 Plus. You'll definitely have more options and of course a much better user experience. Bigger battery, bigger display, and of course almost everything that you get. And of course that secondary sensor on the front. Let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think of the new Galaxy S line device? And again, I want to say thank you very much to Verizon for providing me, being able to actually use their S10 to be able to do this comparison, because otherwise I would just basically would talk about the S10 Plus and the S10e. Like and subscribe as usual. Thank you very much for the support. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you share this video with all your friends. Again, if they're considering getting a Galaxy S10 device, this video should help them make the decision, hopefully pretty easily. I'll see you guys in the next video.